Hi guys, welcome to the 365 Days Satori Healing Challenge. And I am here, Sarah Fareed. Just feeling really blue this weekend because feeling lonely, don't have stuff to do to go out and meet people. And also because my cat was diagnosed with a tumor today. So that's making me really sad. So yeah, so this one is about toxic shame. And toxic shame affects all of us. What differentiates shame from toxic shame? Let's talk about that. So, shame is like other emotions. Shame is let me just move back. Shame is like a pretty common emotion. We all feel it. It's more like learned. They say shame is learned, which I think is pretty true because all this gunk on my foot. Yeah, so I think it is pretty true because kids don't really have shame until we shame them, and then the shame voice becomes like their inner critic and their inner voice, and that can become really bad because after being with a narcissist and these narcissistic abused relationships that I have experienced, my inner critic really became huge. And that was because I put myself in this situation for the sake of rescuing someone, for taking away their pain, which was more like also denying my own pain and sort of just creating a diversion for it to be able to say that I rescued someone rather than rescuing myself. So that was there. So what differentiates toxic shame from shame? So toxic shame is more like chronic shame, and while we all experience shame to varying degrees on the shame scale, some may experience it more than others. But toxic shame is sort of shame that is. So shame is like an emotion we feel when we are actually triggered by something. Something happens, someone says something, we experience something in life. But toxic shame is more like something that is always there. And because it's always there, or it's there a lot of the time where you just feel ashamed of yourself for no reason, or you don't know, you just try to rationalize with yourself and you're like, I didn't do anything wrong, so why do I feel this way? So toxic shame has this really debilitating quality that it sort of spreads in every part, every facet of our existence, in our beliefs, in our perceptions of the world, in our perceptions of people, our perceptions of ourselves. And that can have really detrimental consequences in the long run. What else? So toxic shame is usually there because of our childhood experiences, like many of these feelings that are very strong. And toxic shame can prevent us from doing so many things we want to do. Just feeling like I have an interview on Wednesday, I'm not going to get it because I am a shame-based person. So I just assume that something is going to happen that is going to make me feel that shame, that is going to make me disappointed, that is based on my past experiences of being disappointed repeatedly. That is there. So toxic shame, I want to talk about this today and how I documented my stuff for the week on toxic shame. So the first question was what triggers my toxic shame, and I've divided this into 4 parts. So the first part is what triggers toxic shame for me. So just very quickly, so I want to give you guys an idea how to do this for yourself, and it can just be like a paragraph of things written with sort of just a comma between them or whatever you need. So yeah, so mine are criticism, scapegoating, or being blamed, because I feel like this happened to me a lot. Being treated unfairly, rejected, abandoned, not having my expectations lived up to, which is disappointment and feeling betrayed. And on the other side of it, not meeting someone else's expectations, not having control or trying to control others, being abused, abusing others, someone being rude towards me or vice versa, me towards them, being told I'm too sensitive, emotional, and when I'm treated unkindly, disrespectfully, when I experience failure. Sometimes I can feel like doing stuff by myself is something to be ashamed about because society is very focused on the fact that we should do things with people, and that makes us like respectable, or just like being married makes us respectable. Just like ridiculous because so many people are in unhappy marriages just because. And I kind of also like became part of a marriage. There were a lot of reasons for it. He was my best friend, my favorite person, but then also like I did feel this pressure, and because of that as well, I think it didn't really work out for me. Okay, so when did I first feel this intensely? So I remember that I first felt this intensely when I realized that to protect myself, I have to hide my experience of sexual abuse as a child, because what happened to me is not considered socially acceptable, it's a taboo. It's really uncomfortable, and I felt really uncomfortable and ashamed of my secret that had become a part of myself. Um, Feeling others will not understand and they might ostracize me. So because of that fear, and also because at the time I was growing up, there was not much sexual abuse, child sexual abuse or child abuse knowledge, and the people I was around who were my peers were like 10 years old. So I don't think a 10-year-old really has skills to help their friend deal with these things. And that's what I felt in the moment as well, when I remember sitting with my friends in a group on like the grass in a circle and just like sharing stuff, and then this feeling washed over me, like acute discomfort and this compulsion, or this thing I had to do, which was that I had to hide myself, because now I was part of something that was deep and dark, and it just connected with so much that I couldn't just like throw it out there even though I really wanted to. Or that's how I felt at the time, because I was like 12 years old. Okay, so the next part of it is what beliefs, thoughts, and patterns contribute to it. So the beliefs, I think all the core beliefs contribute to the toxic shame, because when one belief is ignited, it ignites the toxic shame, and that gets triggered, or the toxic shame can trigger the beliefs as well. As for thoughts, there are a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to keep adding to these lists. But something I could think of in the moment was, if I do X, if I do something, X is like whatever I do, someone else will think bad or whatever dash of me. So they might think like I'm irresponsible, I'm lazy, I'm like whatever it is. So the pattern is dysfunctional relationships, emotionally unavailable and abusive men, and also like a great interpersonal relationship turmoil, which makes it kind of really difficult for me to feel that there is anyone who is stable and they're like on a consistent basis in my life, because just like my issues sort of push them away, which is the opposite of what I want actually. But I just go from people to people, usually. Okay. So my pattern is feeling close to people quickly, idolizing and devaluing, going back and forth, no consistency, interpersonal turmoil. Also, like, I get frustrated when results don't happen that quickly. When something is not working, I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I have little value to provide to the world. Being left out is another thing that triggers it. My desire to be rescued or to be the rescuer. And also like when I'm attacked or targeted, these are patterns which trigger that toxic shame as well. So these contribute to the toxic shame and its recurring presence and existence in my life. Okay, so yeah, and also like fights with friends, disappointments, feels like friendship is pointless to me a lot of times, emotional chaos, withdrawn. So basically that has caused emotional chaos and all my other life experiences as well. So I have withdrawn a lot, to a large degree from the world, and somewhat I am coming back in sort of like choosing who I want to meet, and just a little bit here and there doing that. Okay, so the next part of it, the last part, is what am I deeply ashamed, super proud of in life based on events, situations, and past experiences. So I'm deeply ashamed of emotional and mental issues, I realize, because just like the stigma is so intense that it really like affects us, it permeates us. What do you think? Have you guys been affected by it? Because all the people I know who have mental illness, they feel really like stigmatized, and they're very careful about revealing their mental illness things. Usually some people aren't, but a lot of them feel like it's going to affect their work and their relationships and social perception, their reputation, their credibility, especially with professionals like being a lawyer, being like a doctor, being all these things. It just when people hear about your emotional turmoil, they may become like biased because they don't completely understand it. Okay, so inability to conquer and manage emotions and fears. So that is what I'm deeply ashamed of, because I feel like an out of control child a lot of the time, and then I feel like ashamed and guilty later. Okay, so I feel deeply ashamed of my sexuality and gender as well, and having multiple partners. So let me get into that. It's not because just like I'm just ashamed of it for the heck of it. It's more like just the society I've grown up in. It partly it's been Asian societies as well. So people here are very patriarchal, and they're all these boys groups, and sometimes I just feel like saying like, I'm sorry I have boobs, or I'm a girl, because there's like this really prevalent boys club and culture around, and a lot of the time I'm the only girl, so I feel like really left out in that situation as well. And also, so yeah, this is sexuality part is people shaming me for having multiple partners, because I use that as a way to reclaim my sexuality, and people just kind of were not okay with that. They didn't really take it very kindly about themselves, and they called me like horrible names. And I thought it was really hypocritical, because all the men were just trying to get women all the time, and then the women who engaged in such activities, everyone had something to say all of a sudden when they couldn't mind their own business, when they don't really care about you if you're like upset or something, but all of a sudden they care because, oh, now you have a sex life. Whatever, man. I'm like never slept with people's partners, never their husbands or wives, so I don't see what the point is in the first place. I don't know why people cannot mind their own business. That would be really nice if they did that. Okay, so deeply ashamed of failure, being judged, criticized, or looking bad to others, seen as emotional and irrational, a monster, out of control. These are all things people have called me. Not deserving love, money, etc., unlike other people. Deeply ashamed of empathy, because where it limits me in being businesslike and focused like other people. So I feel like a lot of it is that, I'm trying to bridge the gap between what society says should be happening and what is actually happening. And that is just makes it really hard. Also because for your authentic self, if you cannot find that sort of acceptance in society, it's kind of like natural, especially as empaths, to auto-accommodate and adjust ourselves to that. Okay, so lastly, it's what am I super proud of in terms of shame, and not like the opposite of shame is pride. So having that. So I'm super proud of my empathy, compassion, intuitiveness for others, attitude with animals, resourcefulness, action orientation, writing abilities, and the content I can come up with, being sophisticated and a world traveler, facing fears, diving into self, which everyone cannot do. Actually, very few people actually take it upon themselves to do it unless things get really bad. So I think I've been on this path forever. I just didn't know how to go about it, and I did get really involved in like the day-to-day activities of the world, working here and there. So resourcefulness, facing fears, diving into self, which so when I was younger, I used to like do the thing that scared me the most, and that is also like a way to handle fear as well, which is interesting, because I just wanted to take that on and challenge myself, and that did excite me always. Okay, so being more conscious of self and self-aware, intelligence, ability to understand and grasp new information quickly, detecting patterns in life, experiences, insights into human nature, and high energy. So I feel I really want you guys to share what you think, what you feel, where does your toxic shape ignite. Mine really comes up in relationships because of my trauma and just like the skills I use that are not completely healthy all the time, which I'm trying to work on. So share with me and let me know, and see you guys soon. Bye.